So let's define what digital revolution is at the moment. I don't think we're in a revolution yet, but we are coming towards a fundamental change in the white-collar supply chain, a fundamental change in the way financial services work. It's a decade. It isn't individual technology leaps like we saw in CRM, like we saw to a certain degree in big data. We're looking at a set of fundamental technologies that are going to transform the whole DNA of the financial services industry, from the board of directors down, as well as all the ancillary services, audit, consulting, outsourced servicing, and elements like that. Our argument with customers is strategy has never, ever been more important, that we really do need to understand what these technologies are, what impact they're going to have, and how we can deploy them in such a way, because the whole competitive paradigm and cost structure of a financial services firm is going to change. So step number one is understand truly your strategy. Step number two, understand that that strategy is propagated from the board of directors down, and that the C-suite and the board of directors and the audit committee and everybody else actually understand these technologies. They need to understand what robotic process automation is. They need to understand what the impact of artificial intelligence could be, what the impact of connectivity from blockchain is going to do. They need to understand how unstructured data is going to get managed by natural language processing. But they also need to understand that they all fit together, and just getting one is not going to give the competitive and transparency advantages they want. They need a strategy that says, how do we fit it all together? And then they need an organizational and human resources construct to say, yeah, this is going to have a really big impact on our organization, on our people, on what are fundamental assets to an institution, which are the human resources. You know, what do we do about that? So there's a lot of really, really big questions that need to be answered up front. There's a long-term plan that needs to be put in place, and there's a cultural paradigm that needs to be looked at to say, how do we adopt these technologies? And some people will disagree with me, but you only got to look at the blue-collar industry. We've got to learn from where these technologies have already been deployed. You've got to look at the car industry, where car manufacturing, the manufacturing of a car would take 60 to 70 people, now takes 5. The mining industry, where several thousand people got replaced by a single machine managed by 3 people, the size of a football pitch. So it's coming, and anybody who's putting their head in the sand about it are idiots. So the question is how do we understand it? How do we put it in place, and how do we manage it in such a way that it isn't something that happens next year because we gave a project to the IT team? This is a fundamental change in the whole construct of how we work as financial institutions and how we work with our customers and with other institutions in the system. So strategy first, understand education, and then from a deployment perspective, we've got to start really, 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 really small. None of these big, we're going to spend $10 million projects to transform the enterprise. None of this huge BPM stuff that we've done in the past, or these big core system deployments. Something small, measurable, and quintessentially impactful. So I think with Agile, with a lot of frankly lessons learned from large projects over the last decade, we're actually in a really good place to begin to say small, quick steps, succeed quickly, recalibrate quickly, fail quickly. So we're not in a rush. These technologies have got a long way to prove themselves. There's a ton of hype, but that hype is actually going to eventually happen or turn into reality. It's about a decade. All of these technologies fit together. They are force multipliers of each other. So you've got to have a real strategy to understand them and how you're going to control them. And as you deploy it, nice, small, gentle, measurable steps. And have an absolute clear understanding that these are technologies that are going to have a fundamental human impact on how people work and how many people work in the industry.